Hello, listeners. Have you been dreaming of our voices lately? Join us as we talk about Dream Scenario.
What do you say we cut the chit-chat a-hole? I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire!
Interesting choice of words.
What is that? What is that? What is it? Oh, no, not the bee! Not the bee! Ah! Oh, my God. I'm a pixie pear! Okay, let's run.
This is the Unbearable Fate of Massive Talent. I'm Brittany Green.
And I'm Liz Kurtzman.
And we just got back from the movie theater. We just saw Dream Scenario. Probably Renfield, believe it or not, was earlier this year. But after that, this was my next most anticipated.
Renfield was this year.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
That's crazy. This has been the longest and shortest year of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've both been really excited about this one. It's A24.
Since probably like a year ago when we were like, A24 is making a movie with Nicolas Cage.
And it's produced by Ari Aster.
Yeah.
And I was just in, and here we are. How do you feel? We haven't talked about it.
No, we left the theater in silence.
We just sat silently in the car together. Every time we see a live show, every time we go to the movie theater to see a Nicolas Cage movie together, we can't talk about it until we
gotta
get
save
here.
the goods.
So then we just awkwardly walk out silently and are just like,
well,
what are you doing this week?
I really liked it. It really kind of kept me going the whole time. Just kind of trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And try to figure out what they're trying to say with it.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah, I really liked it too. And I was in the whole time. It was just crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was funny. And there were parts where I was so uncomfortable.
So uncomfortable.
And
there were times
scary.
That both of us
I just had my hands up to my face
you
at one point. I was like, no,
around
no.
your face, and you were just like, no. And then there was another part where I think that for the last 10 minutes of the movie, I was sitting there making, the emoji face that's just the gritted teeth. The awkward gritted teeth smile. That was me. Just for 10 minutes. Just oh no. Don't know.
I guess just to kind of get into it, one thing that I really liked about this movie, they don't waste a lot of time at the beginning of it. It kind of jumps right in.
Yes.
Which they're like, you saw the trailer, you know what this movie's about.
It's a gradual... But it starts right away.
Yeah.
It's not immediately crazy. It's just you
immediately
see people looking at him and
I had a dream about you.
Yeah.
Kind of right off the bat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we don't need to spend a lot of time with this guy getting to know him before that action starts.
Yes. Yeah, and I think it's part of the. I would say maybe the strength and the weakness of this movie is that it doesn't explore why it's happening.
Yeah,
I don't get any idea of why it happened.
No.
And so I think that, as far as, if you're trying to delve into themes and whatnot, that's fine.
This is a newer movie. You've gotten our impressions, but I will just, say, we're probably going to talk about spoilers.
Oh, so yeah.
If you haven't seen the movie, pause the podcast.
Yeah, you should go see it.
Go to your movie theater.
I think it had very similar energy to Beau is Afraid.
It was less chaotic.
It was less chaotic and weird, but it had the same sort of energy.
Yeah, the tone, the sort of anxiety,
and the main character.
Yeah,
very
being
similar.
sort of meek and weird,
and sort of self-sabotaging.
Yeah.
So it has some similar themes there, and then just some great performances from a strange array of actors.
Yeah, I thought everybody did a great job.
Yeah, I think that the woman who played his wife was great.
Yeah. Is she in other things? She was not familiar.
Super familiar. I was trying to place her, and I forgot to look the actress
Julianne Nicholson.
Yeah. What was his wife's name? Sophie? No. Yes.
Janet. She was Janet.
Janet.
Her last
Sophie's
role that's
girl.
listed here, she also plays a person named Janet.
Nice.
Janet Planet.
Janet Planet. Oh, she was in
the Weird Al Yankovic story, which I really wanted to see.
That's great.
Yeah, she's in a ton of things, but like you said, I couldn't really place her.
Yeah, like, I've definitely seen her in, like, she was in I, Tonya, Black Mass, August Osage County, but, you know, I don't know if she's had any, like, big starring roles.
Right.
But she was really good, I thought. And I also, weirdly, I thought the two daughters looked like they could really be siblings.
I agree.
They looked so much alike.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's, I guess, our spoiler-free review of this movie. So stop now if you want to go watch it for yourself.
All right.
Okay. And we're back. Yeah, so, I mean, we sort of have talked about this before when we were talking about Nicolas Cage's, like, interview about this movie, where he said that, like,
I had that running in my head the whole time I was watching it.
Yeah. Where he said
where
that this
are the
is,
similarities,
like,
where are the departures from, like, what he's describing, but, like, go ahead and explain.
Well, he said that this is, like, one of the characters that's least like him that he's ever played, which I agree with. But that the scenario of it, the, like, going viral sort of thing, is something that he's super related to. And I think both of those things are true.
Yeah.
Because, like, part of Paul's, like, his main flaw, the thing that is, like, ruining his life before this happens, is that he just, like, doesn't seem to, like, do anything.
He can't take any action in his life. There's kind of a running theme of, like, he's gonna write a book, but he's been a professor for 20 years or something like that.
He's been talking about this, like, ant intelligence thing because he's an evolutionary biologist. He's been talking about this ant thing since he was a grad student 30 years ago, and he's been a professor for 20 years, and he hasn't written the book yet. And it's not just, I haven't got anyone to buy the book, he hasn't written the book.
Yeah.
But then he gets mad when this other, like,
person that he went to grad school with kind of does steal his idea.
Kind of, but, like,
she did the actual work and
she
stuff.
She did the work and, like, studies, and it's 20, 30 years later. Like,
yeah. She shouldn't have called it intelligence.
No, she definitely stole that. She stole that part.
Stole that, yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's sort of, like, that flaw of Paul's is, like, the opposite problem Nicolas Cage has.
Oh, Nicolas Cage is doing stuff all the time.
He's doing stuff all the time, and he's one of the most driven people, I think, out there, where he's just like, I love acting, everything I do is about acting, and I love movies, and my whole life is movies, and, like, he does it. Whatever else you can say about him, he goes for it. So I do think in that way, like, they are so different.
Yeah.
But, yeah, this is a movie about, like, what it means to go viral, and, like, what fame, how you can't, like, control your image.
Right. I feel like a lot of people that go viral, like, I read a really interesting article a while back that was specifically, there was, like, a video a while back of a lady freaking out on an airplane who was, like, maybe hallucinating.
Yes.
I read an interesting article that was about that.
Oh.
And, like, how, like, sort of unethical the world is in terms of, like, letting this explode so much.
Yes.
And, like, the weird commentary around her.
Yeah.
And how, like, that was probably her worst day. you know?
Yeah, and, like, I mean, I didn't watch the video.
It doesn't really define her as a person, but now it does.
But now it does. And, like, I didn't watch the video, but from what I read, like, it seemed like a person who, was having some sort of mental break or, like, psychosis, and she became this meme that people use all the time, and it's like, it's really fucked up.
Yeah.
That becomes who she is in the public eye. And so this movie, brief sort of synopsis, if you've seen the trailer, you kind of got it, you know?
Yeah,
there's not much else to talk about other, like, the premise of the movie.
Yeah. Premise of the movie is people start dreaming about Paul Matthews. It starts out really, like, innocuous, where pretty much universally in people's dreams that he's appearing in, he's doing nothing.
He's always, like, walking through.
Yeah.
And then, he starts trying to take control of that image, and instead people start, their dreams turn
escalating
violent.
And become really violent and nightmarish.
And he, it's mostly this is just him sort of trying to deal with it and not dealing with it well.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the whole thing.
I was in constant conflict throughout this movie of, like, did he have to go on the news? No, probably not. But I also don't objectively think that he shouldn't have gone on the news at that point, you know? And, like, he definitely was trying to, like, use it for his gain, but, like...
But why not?
Why not?
Right.
And then he just kind of loses control of it, and it becomes worse and worse.
Yeah, it's one of those things, I think, okay, what I think this movie did...
Because he really didn't do anything.
Right. What I think this movie did well is that it somehow makes you feel bad for him and what he's going through, but also doesn't make him just this, like, likable.
He's not likable.
He's not likable, but you also are like, we're watching the movie, this train wreck, and you're just like, he really doesn't...
He didn't do anything
wrong. He's not handling it well, and he's not, like, a super likable person or anything, but you feel a little bad. You feel bad for him.
Right.
But you still aren't, like...
You know who I really feel bad for is his kids.
His kids. I feel very bad for them.
Yeah.
The other thing that... Okay, a couple production things that I was really impressed by. I thought the sound design was fantastic.
And it wasn't just the Napoleon showing.
No. Napoleon was showing at the next screen at our movie theater.
So we'd just, like, be watching this movie, and then all of a sudden it'd be like...
And I was like, what? Is that part of the dream? But there's, like, interesting things they do with sound as far as, like, cutting out sometimes.
Yeah.
When there's, like, a really intense scene and then the sound cuts out.
You know what really got me sound design wise was when his daughter was having that nightmare of him busting in and running at her, which you saw in the trailer.
Yeah.
But, like, I jumped a little bit when that happened because it was very quiet, and then all of a sudden he runs in and he's, like, very cartoonish, nightmarishly running towards her, and it was very scary.
It was very scary. The nightmares are scary.
The nightmares are horrifying.
But before we get to that, a couple other sound things. One of the other things I thought they did really well with this movie, and I think with Beau is Afraid did the same thing, is they did a great job of using sound and music to portray anxiety. Mm-hmm. The way that, like, for example, in the scene at the beginning where he's talking to his old colleague, and he's trying to work up to basically, like, confronting her, and you, like, the sound is crescendoing, and it's, like, so nerve-wracking to just sit there watching, waiting for him to do it.
Yeah, and, like, just to set that scene up a little bit, like, him and his wife, before he goes to confront this colleague that is, like, is or isn't stealing his idea.
Yeah.
That he had 30 years ago.
Yeah.
When him and his wife are talking beforehand, and she says, you should record it because I just really want to hear, like, what her reaction to it is.
Yeah.
And he does record it, and when we're watching the scene, it's flashing back between what's happening in the restaurant where he's confronting her and him in the car, like, totally regretting all of his life choices up to this point because he's listening to the recording. And sometimes the audio is, like, the phone recording, and sometimes the audio is, like, in the restaurant.
I really liked when the sound recording was, like, it was obviously the recording, but we're watching him say the words. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There was just some really cool stuff that they did with sound in this that I was really impressed by. And the other thing, to go back to the nightmares, is the way that they portrayed dreams was just, like, so
It was so cool.
Yeah. And there were a couple times where, I mean, as the movie went on, at the beginning, I think it was really clear when people were dreaming.
Yeah, and it became a little bit less clear as the movie went on.
Yes.
And I feel like that is kind of, as the dreams are escalating, Paul's life is getting worse and more nightmarish itself. And so, like, it's sort of mirroring that, where, like, there was a couple of scenes where I'm like, is Paul dreaming or is he not dreaming?
Yes. Yeah, the scene where he's running and he starts getting shot with arrows.
I thought he was jogging at first for a second.
I truly thought that was real.
Until... Or that, like, there was another crazy person, like, after him.
Because at that point, people were genuinely, like, attacking him in public. And so I was like, somebody is hunting him down. And then that ended up being a dream. And then the one, I thought the auditorium scene was a dream.
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
No.
And you thought, and this one might have been a dream, the scene in the basement with the light.
Yeah, I feel
That
like
might
that
have been
was
a dream.
I feel like that was intentionally not clear.
Yes, yeah.
Because so there's a part where him and his wife are on the rocks basically and probably are about to get divorced.
Yeah.
And he moves in with Tim Meadows' character, who is like the dean of the school and seems like his good buddy.
Yeah. The closest thing he has to a friend.
Closest thing he has to a friend. And he moves into the basement and he's walking around in the basement trying to figure out how to turn the lights out.
20 switches in the basement.
It seemed like you hadn't heard of this before, but I swear to God, this is a thing that I've heard. Like, if you ever want to figure out if you're in a dream or not, try to turn on the lights or turn off the lights, because things that are like electric don't work the way that they're supposed to in dreams. So like you can't turn on or off the lights using the light switches in your dreams.
That's fascinating. I've never heard that. But yeah, I just looked it up, and it's got a lot of, like, why don't lights work in dreams? Light switches will not turn on in dreams. Which is from the Lucid Dreaming Reddit. Wild. And then Wikipedia has an article about it, too. So you're absolutely right. I'd never heard of that. So that's a cool detail to include then in the movie.
Like, it probably is just that he doesn't know this basement, and so none of the light switches go where he expects them to.
But I truly was like...
But it could have been a dream.
How are there so many light switches in a basement?
There were so many. Usually there's, like, one, and it's all the way across the room for where you want it to be.
Yes. Yeah. All our basements, there was, like, one light switch, and
at
then
the stairs,
pull cords.
there's one, like, at the stairs, and then, like, pull cords.
Yeah. Yeah, so it starts, and then, like, in the middle with some of those nightmares, they were truly horrifying to watch.
Yeah, there was, like, some cool, like, just montages of the nightmares that people were having.
Yeah.
That were really unsettling.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually, okay, so this movie has one of my favorite things, which is he's playing a professor of evolutionary biology. And I love when a movie starts with the professor giving a lecture that's about whatever the movie is going to be. Mm-hmm. He's giving this lecture about zebras. Yeah. And the, like, stripes. And he's doing... Oh, God, it was painful to watch because he's doing the professor thing where you ask the class a question and no one answers. And you have to decide whether you're just going to wait until someone... Are you having, like,
more flashbacks about
yes.
Giving lectures?
But I also, when he was just like, anybody, which doesn't work... I was like, and then he just answers it on his own. I was like, nah, you should have done think, pair, share. That's how you get him to talk.
I don't know what think, pair, share is.
That's when no one wants to talk in class. And you go, okay, turn to the person next to you and discuss and write down 2 things. And then we're all going to come back together and I'll go around each group and we'll talk about what you guys said. That's how you force students to talk. A little pedagogical tip.
Now I know.
But yeah, he's talking about how, like, you know, he's saying a zebra does not blend in, right? Even though these stripes are supposed to be what...
Doesn't blend into the environment.
Yes. Yeah. So he's like, then what are they for? And then, you know, he makes the point that it's to blend in with the herd, because if you're a prey animal and you travel in a herd or a pack, then, you know, if you have an individual who's sticking out, then that individual gets killed by a predator. And it's, because it's like, oh, he's just one of the crowd. Oh, he starts sticking out. Oh, that's going to be a problem.
You know what's really fun, too, like, bouncing off of this, is he asks, when is it appropriate for somebody to stick out? And they're like, for finding a mate. And he's like, yes. Mm-hmm. And so the first thing, when he thinks things are still all good and he's standing out and he's, like, feeling really flattered, what does he do? Tries to have that gross affair for a second.
Well, first, just with his wife, he's like, does it turn you on? And all these people are thinking about me.
I guess that the first thing that happens is his old girlfriend comes up to him and asks him if she can asks him to go out for coffee. Yeah. But he's like, oh, I think she's, like, into me, you know? She's not. She just wants to write an article about her having dreams about him.
But his wife does kind of get turned on by the idea that people are dreaming about him. And then he tries to have that gross affair with that girl.
The fun thing about his wife is that she is a total hypocrite, because she is, like, cautioning him against, like, sticking his neck out about all of this stuff, but then she uses it for her own gain too in her work, where
and she's like super suspicious of him with other women, but then she's the one who ends up hooking up with the guy from work.
Right.
What I think is really interesting about that relationship was that they both were just like lying to each other all the time about just like the little indignities of life. Like they're just lying to each other about like, oh yeah, I totally wrote the, I totally told this old colleague off for what she did, right? Even though he didn't. He just...
Oh, no, I didn't record it.
No, I didn't record it.
I thought that would be unethical.
Yes. Or with her, when she sort of uses him to get in on this project at work, and then she tells him, like, yeah, they just asked me to do it.
Yeah.
Even though
They're both, like, trying to impress each other all the time.
They are. And I think it, like, relates back to then how they can't, like, she doesn't see him in her dreams. I don't quite know
like what the thing
what it is
there?
yet, but I think that has something to, because like they don't let each other in, I guess.
Yeah.
They're not like in life, they're not like letting each other know, everything about themselves and being honest, and so like
so they don't see each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. That to me was something really interesting, because it was like never super obvious stuff. It was all just like the retelling is just like twisted a little bit, yeah.
In like I feel like everybody does that to some extent.
Yeah.
But like it is interesting in the lens of like they just like turn into bigger and bigger lies as things go on.
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting. What was your favorite dream?
Ooh. Probably the one that was the most unsettling to me was the girl with the septum piercing in the class. That was like the first one of like a montage of really upsetting dreams.
Yeah.
And he like comes up to her door. I feel like I've had like this type of nightmare before of
really?
Yeah, of like just like people keep on like kind of pushing boundaries kind of a thing. But he comes to her door. And this is like right after he leaves the situation with that other younger girl. So it was like another moment where at first I was like, is this a dream or is this real?
Yeah.
Because he comes to her door, he's like, I need your help with something. And I was like, does he need her help like figuring out how to like, because there were people taking pictures of him with that like much younger girl. And I thought that was going to turn into like bad press for him.
Yeah.
So I was like, is it something weird like that? Like, this is not the right way to handle this, but we've seen you already handle things really poorly.
Yes.
So maybe.
Yeah, no, I had the same impulse. I was like, this seems stupid, but also he's done some dumb things.
So he's like at her door and he knocks and she opens it. She's got the chain on the door. And she opens it and is like, what's going on? He's like, I need your help with something. And she says, okay, what? And he says, I think it'd be better if we sat down and talked about this. And she's like, well, what is it? And, just like continuing to like, let me come in and sit down. She's like, I'll come outside to you. And he's like, no.
Yeah.
And eventually he gets in and he's like, well, that was stupid.
Yes.
And it was really upsetting.
Because he's just like laying into her, like how stupid she is, and blah, blah, blah. And then he just like
starts strangling her.
Grabs her and starts strangling her and like throws her against the wall. And that's the first of the nightmares that we see. And then there's some, oh God, the one with the hammer was really messed up.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think I'm maybe one of my favorite ones. I did really like the cinematography in The Mushroom Dream.
That was great.
And also, like, the tall man, and that was super scary.
Super scary. And I also love him just being like, oh, I've never seen these
These
mushrooms
are crazy
before.
mushrooms.
Well, there's like a crazy nightmare happening around him. All of the ones where he's just like being completely oblivious to what's going on are actually very funny to watch.
Yeah. And the one with the piano with the alligators.
Oh yeah, where he like sees the alligators and then leaves.
Like the composition of that scene and the light and everything was beautiful. And he just like strolls in as alligators.
Yeah, I might have to take it back and say that some of my favorites actually were the original ones where he does nothing.
He does nothing. He's just like, sup?
What's up? Like a little wave.
Yeah. And you know what's great is that there's this like impotence to his character.
Yeah.
And where he is upset.
Yeah, he's like super offended that he doesn't do anything in people's dreams.
Yeah. And it sort of makes sense with, like, the first one we hear about is his daughter's dreaming about him.
Right.
And there's this, like, weird bit where she's, you know, like, things are floating up or falling down in her dream, and she starts to float away, and he is just, like, raking leaves and ignoring her. And so the movie starts with her telling him that dream and him being like, well, I wouldn't just, like, I would do something, honey. You know, like, I wouldn't just stand there.
And then when something actually does happen later in the movie, because, like, there's that guy that breaks into their house.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Who, like, thinks he needs to kill him because he's been seeing him in his dreams.
Yep.
And he doesn't do anything. He just stands there, like, with his... He makes a crazy expression. He's got his mouth open. Like, he's just frozen.
Yeah.
But it's just, like, there's an emergency happening and he doesn't actually do anything, which is kind of just like what's happening in the dreams, just further enforcing it.
That scene was suggested by Nicolas Cage based on a stalker that he had.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, so I don't know if that means that someone broke into his house or not, but...
I feel like in the deep recesses of my brain I remember hearing something about that, but I don't remember any details.
It happens to, unfortunately, so many celebrities that I don't know if it's a real memory or if it's...
Am I remembering Jodie Foster or...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or what was that? The weirdest one? Wasn't there one where, like... There was... Robert Pattinson had a stalker.
Oh,
and he, like invited her out. And then
was very
bored
her
so much that she stopped stalking him. And I was like, no one's doing it like Robert Pattinson.
No.
No one is out here doing stardom like Robert Pattinson is doing. He's on a different level. You know what? Okay, so have you heard of the...
I thought with the Robert Pattinson one, was there somebody who was, like, coming into somebody's house and kept eating their food?
Ooh, probably.
Maybe was, like, a celebrity?
Yeah.
I don't know. That might be another deep, like... things that I remember, but not really about...
Yeah.
This is a really good podcast. It's just me half remembering details of things that may or may not have happened.
Yeah, this might happen. I feel like that's true.
Yeah. It's like trying to remember a dream.
Okay, so so there's this bit, because we've talked about him being a professor, and at first, this whole phenomenon makes him more popular, and he gets more students coming to his class and want to take pictures with him and stuff. And then, after they turn to nightmares, the students stop coming and drop the class, and, like, the school, there's a scene where they try to desensitize the students to him, which is pretty funny. Yeah. And it doesn't work. They all, like, run out. And, do you know what's crazy, though? Is when I was at Heidelberg, I had a nightmare about one of my professors. So I used to have zombie dreams when I got really stressed.
Okay.
I would have, like, zombie apocalypse dreams, or, like, people that I loved would be, like, changing into zombies, and I'd have to, like, decide whether to, like, stay with them or, like, leave. You know, like, the stuff you see in zombie movies. And that was how, if I got super stressed, I would have those dreams. And I had one where, when I first started school, one of my professors in the dream was changing into a zombie and was, like, first trying to help me, and then as they were changing, started chasing me. And I had to go to class the next day, and it genuinely was upsetting. I will say that for these students I was just like...
If you were having that, like, every day.
Yeah, I could see. If you're, like, every day. And you know what else is interesting about that? Because, like, man, there's so much about academia in this movie that really hit home for me in a truly terrifying way. And one of the things was, when they're having the conversation, he's like, you're just going to let students, you know, like, do this? And he's like, well, they say they're traumatized. And he's like, oh, they all say they're traumatized about everything. And I was like, this is exactly how, like, middle-aged and older professors talk about
Trauma
Gen Z and like, you know, trauma and all the things that are supposed to, the school will, like, talk the talk, but then, like, don't provide any support or anything. They're just like, you know, don't do that. Yeah. So yeah, that really hit home for me, that scene where he was, like, just so dismissive.
Yeah.
Where it's like, this is ridiculous, but also you're just, like, dismissing a genuine, like, feeling that these people have.
We've glossed over slightly the interim between people having dreams where he's doing nothing.
Oh, no.
And people having dreams where he's killing them.
Yeah.
Which is the part that both of us
Maybe some of us skipped that part on purpose, Brittany.
We have to talk about it. And this is a part I can relate to, because I've had dreams about people in real life that I know, and they're naked in the dreams. Usually not in a sexy way either. Usually in like a deeply unsettling, uncomfortable way.
Yeah.
And then I just push it down. I'm just like, can't think about that ever again.
Well, I'll just erase that from my brain.
Just erase that from my brain.
Yeah, well, okay, so there's this bit where he, like, goes to meet with this company that's basically a, like...
They're like a talent management company.
Talent management, but specifically they're, like, they're the people who, like, try to hook up, like, weird viral celebrities or, like, online celebrities with some sort of, like, advertiser or money-making scheme.
Or, like, selling their life rights.
Yes. And that part, that was, like, the silliest scene, I think. Was just, like... Michael Cera is the guy in charge, and he is
good.
He's doing
love
great.
Michael Cera.
And then the other woman, I don't know the actress's name.
She was super familiar.
God, but her delivery was incredible. Like,
she is like a young Kathryn Hahn.
Yes, I kept thinking that. I was like, that is not Kathryn Hahn.
It is
but
not
isn't
Kathryn
it?
Hahn, but she's kind of like a copy paste of Kathryn Hahn.
Yeah, like B-movie Kathryn Hahn.
And I'm trying to find...
I don't even remember what her name is.
I don't either. But yeah, anyways, I've seen her in other things for sure, because I feel like I've had the same thought every time of like, that kind of looks like Kathryn Hahn.
Yeah. But she was so funny in that scene. And the way that they're like kissing his ass, but also like not listening to him.
Right.
But, like, he... Also,
and at first, he's, like, super flattered, and
yeah.
then he realizes kind of what's happening.
Yeah. And it's also, like, they are not the people that are able to help him with the thing he wants to do.
No, because he wants them to help him get a book deal for his, like, biology textbook idea, basically.
Yes. Which... You can't... talent agency is not going to be able to, like, help
not that type of
that.
talent agency, and not with the reason
For
that they've
an
approached
academic
you.
book?
Yeah.
No. Her name's Kate Berlant.
Oh, great.
And she does a lot of voice work. She was in Don't Worry, Darling, A League of Their Own, Space Force, Bob's Burgers, American Dad. Like, she's just been in a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was great. I loved her. And also, okay, there's a bit where he gets, like, not fired from the school, but, like, they're like, we cancel your classes, right? Yeah. And just take the semester off. And his wife is like, so what are you gonna get a job? And he's like, oh, I thought I'd focus on the book and, like, go all in on that. And I cannot emphasize enough at how little money you get from publishing an academic book. Like, you get nothing. You get, like, pennies from that.
Yeah, it's not like he's going to sell 1 million copies or anything.
No. Like, if he had written a book about ants, and, like,
Antelligence?
Antelligence, 5 people would have bought that book.
Yeah.
He would have seen...
Well, he could assign it to his classes, and then that's, like, a guaranteed, like, 50 people buying your book.
Yeah, so that's, like, $1.
Yeah.
That you've made. Congratulations. Yeah, that was very funny to me, because I was like, no one makes money off of academic books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So back to thinking, thoughts, which is the name of the firm that he...
Yeah.
There's, like, Michael Cera, there's baby Kathryn Hahn, and then there's the assistant, who is the only person of the three of them that has actually had dreams about him.
Yeah. And I knew her. Her name is Dylan Galula.
Yeah, and she's in something.
She was in Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
Okay, she was
the oldest daughter. Too. That's what I knew her from. She's been in other stuff. I don't know.
Dream Scenario.
Loot is a thing that's happening. Horse Girl.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like maybe I saw her in, like, a trailer for Loot, which I haven't actually seen, but I think I've seen her.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I definitely, as soon as I saw her, I was like, that's a girl from Kimmy Schmidt. Yeah, so she's acting weird around him, and then she admits to him that she's had, like, a sexy dream. And unfortunately, we see that dream.
We sure do. It's like kind of like it's kind of creepy.
It's super creepy.
Like, watching how it actually plays out,
Yeah.
he's like a weird unknown man in her apartment that says nothing to her, but walks over to her and then just like is all over her basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really deeply unsettling.
Very deeply unsettling.
But
Didn't
apparently
like she's into it.
She was into it.
Yeah, a lot of people are into
I can
like,
see it.
rape scenarios and break-in scenarios and stuff. So I guess yeah, she's into that. But I was not into it. I'm sure that'll surprise everyone because I generally love him.
The thing that like really was upsetting about it was the huge age gap.
The huge age gap, but also the way that the camera extreme close-upped on them and what they were doing. I was like, oh, there was like a jump scare where he like sticks his tongue in her ear, and I think I screamed. I did not like it. Yeah, that...
What made me more uncomfortable than the dream is that, like, they have this meeting. She's like, so what are you doing later? Mm-hmm. And he doesn't know that she's been having sex dreams about him yet at this point. What are you doing later? He's like, probably just go back to the hotel. And she's like, well, if you want, I'd love to get a drink with you or whatever. Yeah. And so he goes out for a drink.
Well, first, he calls his wife. Right. And finds out that she is working late on this project with this guy from her firm. Right. And he gets... Excuse you. Get out of there.
Kat's trying to get into the cabinet.
She's trying to get into the cabinet with the cleaning supplies.
That's where all the good poison is.
Oh, no. Maybe she just wants to clean up the apartment a little. Finally pitch in and do her part. So he gets like, he's like, wait, I didn't know you were working with this guy. And he gets like really jealous. Yeah. That she's working with this guy from her firm. And that's when he decides to go out with this beautiful young woman for a drink. So that's definitely a factor.
Probably like 22. Yeah. Because she's an assistant at this place.
Well, she said she was born in 1996. So she would be older than that. She'd be like 27? No. Wait. We can't do math.
She said she was born in 96?
Yeah.
Maybe that is 27. I don't know. I don't know anything.
I don't. But,
yeah, that is 27. You're right.
Oh, wow.
Good job.
I'm a math whiz.
I had to use a calculator for that.
I don't know. I mostly was guessing.
She looked 22.
She looked very young. And I mean, the last time I'd seen her, she was playing a teenager, so that also made me feel weird seeing her play that role. Right. What's fun is it's Halloween, and he sees people dressed up as him. Which was
just the one guy who comes in and looks at him really hard.
Yeah, and then they smash cut to her, they're going to her apartment.
Yeah, she does sort of I really need you to do something for me.
Yeah. It's super weird because they keep being like, I'm married. And she's like, I know. I'm not going to ask you to do anything, right? And then that's exactly what
she's doing.
So she makes him recreate the dream where he's in the corner.
I'm cringing thinking about talking about this.
And at first, he's standing there and he starts to talk and she's like, don't talk.
Don't say it.
Don't talk. So he just
oh yeah, because he already has been so boring because he's
boring.
In the bar, he does the zebra speech.
He gives her the zebra lecture from class, and she's bored out of her mind. I thought he would be boring enough that she would just not invite him back. Yeah.
That's what I would have hoped would have happened.
Yeah, me too. So then he comes over to the couch, but she immediately is they do start kissing, but she's in the dream you were very forceful and controlling and you were in charge, and he is not that.
He's well, what do you want me to do?
Yeah, and he's okay, sure, what do you want me to do? And it's well, so what happens first that while they're making out on the couch, he farts and obviously throws super awkward, throws off the vibes, and he's just I was just nervous, and she's that's okay, it happens. And then
They keep going.
and it doesn't go well, and
That's what you're leaving it at.
well, you can jump in anytime.
She goes to continue undoing his belt. I don't think she finishes getting his belt off.
I don't even know if she touches him.
She's definitely fiddling with the belt.
She's definitely trying to get the belt off, having a lot of trouble with the belt.
Having a lot of trouble with the belt.
But
But before she really gets the belt off, he comes.
he farts again.
And then farts again immediately after, starts crying and runs out.
With his pants still undone. It was rough to watch.
Oh my god.
You talk about secondhand embarrassment.
It's, like we said, it was hard to recap that.
Yeah.
I was still, like, cringing so hard.
It was rough. I think I screamed again when that happened. Did I? No. Okay, so I have a question.
I mean, like, as it was leading up to that moment, I was already, like, in the, like, hands up on my face, just like, no, get out of there, no.
Yeah, and at that point, it was more of a, like, don't cheat on your wife.
Don't cheat on your wife, right. I could not have predicted.
This will go badly.
Could not have predicted how badly it would go.
Okay, so I have a question, though.
Does it count as cheating on your wife if it goes that badly?
I think it... Oh, because they still made out.
Because I feel like he's been punished.
He has been punished. It counts, but he's paid the price.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instantly paid the price. Didn't even get to enjoy it. Do you think... Because we don't get answers in this movie, but do you think there is something that causes the change in the dreams?
I feel like he sort of... It seems like it kind of aligns with his feelings turning more negative about it.
Okay.
So, like, that happens.
Yeah.
And he has, like, kind of a meeting that didn't go well with the thoughts people, where, like, they have, like, totally different ideas in mind for what they want to do with him than he does.
Yeah.
And he's, like, reached this, like, point of, like, all right, I'm famous, but I'm, like, still super, like, frustrated about this and don't have any... So I feel like he turns more negative, and the dreams are reflecting how... And, like, we find... Like, I'm not saying that this is necessarily aligned, but we find out that this young woman had a sex dream about him around the same time that he's turning it sexy for his wife.
Oh, yeah.
So I kind of think that the dreams are reflective of, like, where he is in his life and in his journey at the time. So, like, the angrier he gets, the angrier the dreams get.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true. I had more specifically... I asked that question because, to me, the turn was after that scene.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if it was because he, at that point, he was trying to take advantage of the dreams, like, of the dream scenario. Because, he tries to get some financial gain from it, and then he tries to get sex out of it.
Like, the dream situation is punishing him for bad behavior?
Yeah. Yeah, or like you said, it's just, like, the change in personal feeling or in how he's handling it is what turns them bad. And
my instinct for saying that it's reflective of how he's feeling, I feel like is also supported by the end of the movie a little bit. Because at the end of the movie, it takes kind of a weird turn where, like, people aren't dreaming about him anymore after the incident that we haven't really talked about yet at the school.
Yeah.
But somebody develops technology so that you can astral project into people's dreams.
Yeah. It's such a weird...
It's so weird.
Well, okay. So let's talk about...
because other people can now replicate this thing, it makes me wonder if he is somehow subconsciously astral projecting into people's dreams.
Yeah. Because the weird thing is, because he's in so many dreams,
like, I don't think he's doing it on purpose, but
there's no way he could be astral projecting into people's dreams because he's in so many people's dreams at the same time.
Right, and that doesn't seem to be how the technology works.
Right.
Like, this is new technology.
It's new technology.
Maybe we haven't explored the realms and the possibilities.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the scene at the school. So by the end of the movie, people don't like want him in public anymore.
No, he's been like ousted from various public places at this point.
Yeah, the school has canceled his classes. The restaurant kicked him out. And people trashed his van. And the school where his daughter has a play that she's in. And the school's like, yeah, you can't come to that because so many people are upset by you being there. And he does not like that, and he does not want to take that lying down. And so he tries to just barge in anyway. Like, while the play's going on, he just, like, strolls up to the door. The doors are locked to the auditorium, which is weird.
I think they're just locked from the outside. I've been in theaters that are like that, too.
Oh, okay.
Like, specifically high school auditoriums, actually, where,
Okay.
like, you have to be let in by an usher. Like, I feel like our high school, for where we did our dance classes, would be like that, where you could leave, but you couldn't go in.
You couldn't go in. So, you know, her teacher's on the other side, and is like, you cannot come in. Like, and they're having this, like, whispered, angry conversation, and she tries to just push him out and close the door, and he pushes back, and it catches her hand, and she's bleeding. And it's not, like, bad enough that, like, I thought at first, like, one of her fingers...
It did, like, squirt a little bit.
It was bleeding a lot.
It was bleeding a lot.
But I couldn't see, like, the wound, and all of her fingers were there. So I'm not...
She didn't lose a finger. I think it probably got pinched, and I think her fingers were probably broken.
Yes.
They looked a little raggedy to me.
Messed up. So then, like, she's screaming at him and yelling that, like, Paul Matthews attacked me. And
which he absolutely didn't.
He did not. Yeah.
I was, like, kind of mad at her in that moment, because I was like, he didn't attack you, and you know he didn't attack you.
He was being an asshole, but he did not attack her.
No. Her fingers got caught in the door.
Right.
And she was pulling the door closed he wasn't doing anything that would have pinched her hand.
I know, that was my thing afterwards. I was like, wait, she's the one pulling the door closed, so she did it.
Yeah.
And... yeah.
I mean, it was probably like a lizard brain situation where she's not really thinking about what's actually happened, but like, he didn't do anything.
Yeah. And of course it causes a scene in front of all the parents, and his daughter's crying on stage, and the mom's there with the guy from work.
Yeah.
This is one of the reasons I thought this was a dream, because I was like, why would he be there?
Yeah, that was like a bombshell for me, because I hadn't really realized that she was actually doing anything untoward with this guy.
I know, and they didn't really have... I mean, the guy was an idiot, so I didn't think they had any, like, chemistry.
I thought she was just, like, trying to get to do this cool project with him.
Yeah. So then... And then it just, like, skips to this commercial for this the dream bracelet thing.
Yeah, it's like a bracelet that allows you to project yourself into people's dreams.
That infomercial was hilarious.
It was very funny. It was very nightmarish to have people doing commercials in people's dreams. I'm like,
and the way
get out of my dream right now.
They were all dressed in, like, denim.
Oh my god,
they were so good.
They were like Gen Z cringe.
Yes, and we were talking about this in that scene. A lot of the people in that infomercial are like semi-famous.
Yeah, we recognized probably half of them.
Yeah, and they're only in that one scene. Like, Amber Midthunder was in there, and she had one line. And
Noah Centineo was in there.
Yeah.
I don't remember the actor's name, but the actor who plays the cousin on Succession.
Yeah.
An Emmy-nominated, very recently actor.
Yeah. He's the tech guy.
He's the inventor, yeah.
Which, oh my god, his character was spot on. Like the tech bro, sort of. It was so
perfect.
Good.
He's so good.
So what, I don't know. So this is a question, I don't know if this is a question or not, but thinking structurally about the movie, the auditorium scene is the climax.
Yeah. But
not much really happens. You know what I mean? I think for me, it's like the not having any idea how this happens is, I like that because we don't need to go into the, like, science and explanation because that's not the point. But I think it does make it difficult to sort of end the movie because it just sort of feels like it petered out.
I actually really liked how it ended.
Yeah. I mean, I like the ending.
Yeah.
But I do think, like, because I looked at some reviews.
It did seem like a weird So, like, that like, sort of, like, stamp on the end of it where, like, now this is, like, new technology, and he has lost the ability to project into most people's dreams.
Yeah.
Or, like, isn't in the dreams anymore after that incident.
Yeah.
But now there's this technology that allows people to project into dreams.
I think it
felt like a weird detail to include in a movie where, like, part of the point is he doesn't know what happened.
Mm-hmm. I think it's where the, like, metaphor part makes it, like, they're doing this metaphor of what it's like to go viral and become a celebrity and all this stuff. And I do think that sort of, it peters out and then someone else gets to, like, reap the reward of whatever you did, right?
Right.
Someone
it's
else
like people
gets to
selling
monetize
merchandise
it.
with your face on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I do think that, like, thematically that makes sense. But I think just,
using
like...
all of these memes that, like, people probably didn't consent to.
Right. But I do think, like, just structurally from, like, purely a, like, screenwriting sort of point of view, it is sort of a weird, not much of a climax and then denouement.
Yeah.
Where you're sort of like, oh, okay. But, I mean, I think that's what the director wanted.
Yeah.
For this story. So, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, like, the end of the movie, we do have, like, a little bit of stuff that happens after that, like, weird commercial and stuff, because he, like, he does write a book, but it's about being the dream man. It gets real dark for him. His life turns so
his
sad.
Life sucks at the end.
Yeah.
He's only famous in France at that point. French people like him. So he goes over to France.
Le Nightmare Man.
They did name drop Rue Morgue. I did think it was funny that they name dropped Rue Morgue, which is a real, like, horror publication, but I think it's Canadian based. I don't think it's French.
Weird.
Yeah, maybe it is, but the people I know that write for it are in Canada, so that was funny. And he's doing this, like, photo shoot, and he's doing, like, he's signing. Actually, quite a few people showed up to have their
they did
book signed. It was
in
very
a
funny
shitty
how
basement,
thin it
though.
was to be like, he did write a book, but he didn't write much.
It's like probably 100 pages.
Yes. And he was like, must be the translation made it shorter. And I'm like, that's not how it works. And he's separated from his wife. And
he's buying a house that smells like animal pee, probably.
Yeah. Did get a dog, or I guess that could be part of the dream.
That was definitely part of the dream because the dog was dead.
Oh. Yeah, okay. That's
so, like,
right.
there might have been a dead animal smell in that house,
Maybe
too.
that's what it was.
It was, like, bloody.
He's bought one of those bracelets and is trying to learn to dreamwalk in his wife's dream because he wants her back.
And he does her fantasy, and it's cute.
He does it. That is a really cute ending. It feels like they kind of...
like, I don't think they're gonna end up back together, but I did like
maybe they
as
understand each other better.
Yeah.
You know? Like, they finally have seen each other for good or bad. But the fan, like, that was such a great return to something from earlier in the movie where she was trying to come up with a fantasy, and the fantasy she came up with was the David Byrne giant suit that he'd worn for a Halloween. And she's like, you just come in and rescue me from something. And so at the end, he, like, rescues her.
From being burned at the stakes, I guess.
Which, you know, I can understand why she's having that dream.
Yeah.
And then runs away with her in his David Byrne outfit, and then, like, floats up into the sky, which mirrors the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great.
I thought it was a good ending.
What would you rate this movie?
I would give this movie out of 10, I guess, like, or like out of 100 if we're gonna go by, like, Rotten Tomato rules. I'd give it like a 85-90%.
I agree. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It is very certified fresh. You probably already know the Rotten Tomato score because it's been kind of...
It's like 92%, right?
Yeah. 92. Audience score is 70. It's a little weird for audiences to be fully endorsing it. But
yeah, it's one of those when I think
good.
If you're into it, you're into it, and if you're not, you hate it.
Yeah.
And that was sort of reflected when I was looking up stuff about it, and I saw the Google reviews, which were either 5 stars or 1 star, basically.
Tell me the 1-star Google review.
So this 1-star Google review.
Liz read this in the car on the way home, cackled, and then I was like, what? And she's like, there's a 1-star review that, do you want to hear it? And I was like, no, save it.
Save it. Okay. So, this person says, the only success I can credit to Dream Scenario is that it left me feeling like I had woken up from the most horrendous night terror I have ever had. The score on Rotten Tomatoes is far greater of a joke than anything executed in this movie. Any humor past the first 20 minutes could not make it past the dull, depressed, and bored emptiness that the movie cast over me.
Oh my god.
It truly did not help that the movie was advertised as a fun, lighthearted film during the holiday season.
I don't think it was advertised as a fun, lighthearted. Certainly it was advertised as a comedy.
It definitely, I will say, the trailer makes it look more funny, more like laugh out loud funny.
This was, there
was a lot of uncomfortable laughter,
Yeah.
and there were a couple jokes I did laugh at, but I don't think it is much of a laugh out loud kind of movie.
But we did both laugh out loud.
Oh, for
multiple
sure.
times.
Yeah. Some of those were awkward laughs,
Some
though.
of those were like, I'm screaming because I don't want to watch this guy do this horrible
They went on
thing.
to say, the person sitting next to me got up and left during the horrific sex scene, and if I had known that nothing within the following hour would redeem it, then I would have as well. I have never felt strongly enough to leave a review for anything in my entire life, but Dream Scenario changed that. Boo!
Wow.
She wrote out the words, boo.
I don't know.
I love it.
That's some, like, visceral hatred.
She hated it. And I could see if someone was bored with it.
I appreciate that it was a strong emotion review.
But it was a strong... She hated... That's how... That's like Skinamarink level of, like, hate or love. Yeah. I thought that was pretty funny. I have a couple facts that I forgot to tell you. Okay, so at one point, Ari Aster was supposed to direct the movie, and Adam Sandler was going to play the main character.
Oh, I could see that.
But after, so the director of this movie is Christopher Borgli, and he's Norwegian, and this is his first movie outside of Norway.
Okay.
And when he was chosen for this movie, because he did a movie called Sick of Myself last year that got good reviews, and it's also about fame, but it's about a woman who will, like, do anything to be famous, so sort of like this movie, but in some ways the opposite.
Yeah.
Ari and A24 wanted him to direct the script because he had written it. And he's the one who was like, I want Nicolas Cage, which is
I'm glad.
Perfect choice.
I prefer Nicolas Cage for this to Adam Sandler, but I could see Adam Sandler
I can
doing
see
this.
in sort of like a funny people way.
Yeah.
But
it would have been way different.
Would have been way different. And just like Nicolas Cage's like real life experience with this kind of virality, and also like his big, like, he's so good in the dreams because he is so absurd. And he will commit to doing like really scary or really silly stuff.
Yeah.
In a way that's very believable. He's also doing a bit of the voice from Vampire's Kiss as the character.
So he was definitely doing a voice.
Yeah.
I felt like it was almost like the voice in Vampire's Kiss sounded like somebody trying to be fancy.
Yeah.
And for me, the voice in this was trying to sound like almost like a stereotypical nerd voice. Well, because it's like high pitched. It's like kind of high pitched and kind of like nasally, in a way that like that like sort of New England accent that he does in Vampire's Kiss is like much more like throaty and fancy, you know.
Yeah, but I think in both of those movies he is imitating his father.
I don't know if he's imitating his father in this one.
I think a little bit.
I think like parts of it for sure.
Well, and that's why I'm like, he's doing a little bit of the voice. Because he's not going full Vampire's Kiss. He's not going full Peggy Got Married. But there's a little bit
there's a hint of a voice.
Of the nasal. And especially in scenes where he's, like, really upset.
Yeah.
It gets more nasally and, like, high-pitched.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like this was a different voice.
Yeah.
But we can agree to disagree.
We can agree to disagree. I think he's doing a little bit of his father in this. Like most of his roles, Nicolas Cage came up with his own hairstyle for this film.
It was perfect.
It was perfect.
And they also did a lot with it because he's like constantly got bandages like just on his balls.
Yeah, he kept getting hit in the head. Okay, so have you ever dreamed of this man incident?
No.
So this movie is partially based on that, and I'd forgotten about it until I saw this fact on IMDb. So there was this whole thing, and I like, unsolved mysteries and stuff like that. Like, I love reading that stuff. And every once in a while I come across the Ever Dream of This Man, where they would have this hand-sketched drawing of this sort of whatever-looking dude. And they would be like, have you dreamed of this man? And supposedly, like, thousands of people had dreamed of him on and off for years, since 2006 and then to 2009. But it was exposed eventually that it was all a hoax. And it was a guerrilla marketing campaign by Nutella's advertising agency.
Nutella's?
Sorry, Andrea Natella.
Oh, I thought you meant like the chocolate hazelnut
As soon as I said it, I was like, that's what it sounds like when I say it out loud. It's Nutella, but it's Natella. And Natella admitted that he made up the whole story to explore how urban legends and collective myths are created.
That's cool.
So I thought that was interesting, because I had seen the have you seen this man sort of entries, but I didn't realize that it had ever been exposed as a hoax. Like, I never got that part of the story. So I'm assuming that must have been at least partially inspired this.
Yeah.
For sure. Oh, also, the other thing I was going to say is, second build in this movie should have been his coat. That he wears. Like, the second build actor in this movie should have been that coat that he wears in every freaking scene. The big puffy coat with the fur hood. Yeah. It was just like its own character.
It was. It just like makes him look like weirder and daddier. Not like daddy, but like more dad-like.
More father-esque.
Yeah.
Daddier. Yeah, so that's what I got. That's what I got for this film.
All right, great. It's time for
Inside the Cage. That was my voice.
Was that your Paul Matthews voice?
That was my Paul Matthews voice when he's upset.
We've got two things this week.
Yes, we have two sort of short things. First one, which I don't...
What do you think the first one is?
Okay, the first one I was going to talk about was the high school.
Okay, that's what I wanted to talk about too.
Which came out of... Lenny Kravitz did some interview recently. Yeah. Some big interview, because I keep getting tidbits from it.
From the Lenny Kravitz interview?
Right, coming across my timeline. And Lenny Kravitz was talking about how he went to this Beverly Hills high school, and he went to school with, like, Nicolas Cage and Gina Gershon and Slash.
Yep.
And they were, like, they did theater together. And he said that Lenny Kravitz was like, I was in the pit for Oklahoma, and Nicolas Cage was the star in it. And I was like, that's crazy. That's crazy to think about. That, like, Gina Gershon and Nicolas Cage are doing, like, high school musicals, and Leonard Kravitz is down there playing, I don't know.
He was playing drums.
Yeah. And then I assume Slash, is smoking in the background somewhere. Yeah, I wonder, what role do you think he played in Oklahoma?
Oh, man, it's been such a long time since I saw Oklahoma, but honestly, I feel like probably he was, like, the main lead guy.
Curly?
Yeah. That's who I was trying to think of.
Probably.
Curly's not the one that, like, beats up the girl, right?
No, I was going to say that's the bad guy, Judd. So I feel like the two options are either he played Judd, which I feel like he was a Curly. And we know he can sing.
Was a Curly. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not, like...
Judd is usually like cast as a big guy.
The quarterback of the football team at the high school.
He's gotta be the linebacker. He's gotta be the big guy.
Who's like, maybe I'll try theater this year.
Who's like, I guess I'll try out. And they're like, he's amazing.
Yeah.
A man. That's how it goes in theater, is that people are so desperate to cast a male in the show that anytime
and then they do shows like Oklahoma, Guys and Dolls, that are at least 50% men.
That's what all classic theater is, like 80% men and then like 2 female roles.
Yeah.
And then there's never any guys trying out for shows. And so it's always ridiculous. Yeah, so that was the first tidbit, which I found hilarious.
Yeah.
But we got another update today.
The thing that blew my mind before we move on the most about the Lenny Kravitz Nicolas Cage thing was realizing that Lenny Kravitz and Nicolas Cage are close enough in age to go to high school together.
That was bananas. Which, like, I know that.
But
they just seem like different worlds.
they really do.
Just very different worlds.
Just different time periods altogether.
Yeah.
Lenny
and I
Kravitz is
can't-
like in the future.
Yes.
Lenny Kravitz is like 50
It's
years
not
from
even
now.
like I'm like, oh, Lenny Kravitz is young and Nicolas Cage is older, vice versa. I'm just like, they're different worlds.
Yeah.
They do not.
It's hard
Never
to,
the twain
it's hard
shall
to
meet.
put them together.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, I agree, that was bananas to think about. Just them existing in the same room.
Yeah.
Going to algebra together or something.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
All right. And then the second thing was something you sent me today with a series of exclamation points.
Well, because I saw the headline, I thought it was like a misconstrued, like in interviews,
Yeah.
a star will say something that's like, yeah, I don't really want to be in like a superhero movie. And then all the headlines are like, so-and-so
Bashes
hates
superhero movies.
superhero movies. And it's like, no. So I thought it was something that like he had said and then got blown out of proportion. But it seems to be exactly what he said, which is that he's only planning to do a few more movies and then wants to do television.
I mean, I feel like it's hard to do both.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people, like, you have to do it in the season breaks where they're not filming anything,
Yeah.
or, like...
Yeah. I think the idea...
But he wants to do, like, a Breaking Bad-esque,
Mm-hmm.
like, main starring role kind of a deal.
I think like a limited series would be great.
Breaking Bad came into the conversation because the reason he wants to do TV is because his son just showed him Breaking Bad,
Yeah.
like, last year.
Like last year.
He's
which
like...
is amazing.
Like, I feel like I have a lot of TV to catch up on.
Yeah.
But Nicolas Cage is out here just now watching Breaking Bad.
Two things. I don't think he was a TV guy. I
Yeah.
think he's a movies guy. And I think up until last year, he was making movies all the time to pay off his debt.
So
And now he was like, yeah, I'm going to only do a few movies a year.
he doesn't have time for TV
Right.
shows.
And then it was like suddenly he had free time. And his son was like, here's some shows to watch, Dad. And he was like, oh my God. Have you guys heard of Breaking Bad? Wait until he discovers ER. I was trying to think of the most like
Dated
popular
TV
like
show.
90s
Yeah.
show, and
I think
for some
ER
reason,
is the right one.
ER was up there for
Yeah.
sure. It was always on television.
Yeah.
George Clooney.
George Clooney. My parents loved ER.
Yeah, parents love ER.
Yeah.
That's the rule.
Parents love George Clooney.
That's also true.
Moms love George
Moms
Clooney.
love George Clooney.
To be fair, I also love George
I love
Clooney.
George Clooney a little bit.
So
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe we'll see. I couldn't believe it, but maybe he'll start making some television shows now. I'd love to see him in a limited series.
yeah, for sure.
I think that'd be great. Put him in
What streaming service is it going to be on?
HBO.
HBO?
Yeah. Or like a weird one, like
You know,
Showtime.
if it's on HBO, he's going to be naked, though, right?
Don't
I'm just saying.
say that.
You picked the one that they have literally the sketch that's like, it's not porn, it's HBO.
I don't think he would do Netflix because I think he would hate the Netflix model. Like the way they make movies. It's
Yeah.
very sort of factory-esque, and I don't think he'd like that.
There's a lot of jokes about how literally everyone has a show on Apple Plus, but nobody watches them.
Yes, that's true.
There
Maybe he
are a
would do-
lot of Apple Plus shows.
There's a lot of Apple Plus shows, and I don't know anyone who watches it other than Ted Lasso.
Right. I started watching Shrinking, and I really
yeah.
liked it.
I like Shrinking. I did watch all of Shrinking.
I haven't finished it, but
I watched all of that, and I watched the first season of Schmigadoon.
how was it?
It was fun, but I didn't watch the second season. So,
Apple Plus. I'll keep paying for it, even though I'm
What?
hardly ever watching it.
what if he was on like the next season of True Detective?
Oh my god.
Who
I
would he be paired
love
with?
that. John Travolta. Nice switch faces. That's how we get our Face Off sequel.
That's brilliant. Oh my god, I would love that.
What if they actually did like have him and John Travolta though? Not as like a joke Face Off thing, but just
But
like
dead
it would
serious.
be a fun reunion.
Yeah, I think they would both love that. You know who else would be great?
Have
And
you
a True
seen-
Detective pairing would be like Ron Perlman.
Oh
him.
yeah, and apparently they love each other.
They're great. They're great friends.
Have you seen John Travolta in the O.J. Simpson show with Cuba Gooding Jr.?
No, but okay. So I wasn't planning to watch that show because
It's really good.
well, that's the thing is I just listened to the
I didn't
You're
think
Wrong
I would
About
listen to
multiple.
it,
They
yeah.
did like 10 episodes about like the real O.J. Simpson story, and they kept referencing that show and John
Yeah.
Travolta's role, and I was like, maybe I gotta watch the show.
Listen, I probably wouldn't have watched that show, but somebody told me I had to, and I thought it was really good.
I mean, generally,
It's, like, just
I
good
avoid
addicting.
like dramatizations of true crime stories, and I avoid Ryan Murphy now. But maybe I gotta watch that one.
It has Nathan Lane.
Oh well, now I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Who did he play?
I don't remember.
Okay.
It's one of the lawyers. They're all lawyers.
They're all lawyers. He has like 10 lawyers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's our recommendation. Go see Dream Scenario and go watch the O.J. Simpson trial movie. That was on Netflix? Like,
No.
no.
It was on...
Like FX, maybe?
It honestly might have been on, like, cable TV, and then
Yeah.
it came onto something.
I feel like Ryan Murphy actually does... His shows actually show on television first, so... Well, there you go.
That's it. That's all
That's
we've
it.
got. What are we doing next time? We don't know.
I don't
We'll
know.
have to check the Instagram.
Check the Instagram.
Follow our Instagram. Tell all your friends about our podcast. Yeah.
Sweet dreams.
Sweet dreams. Goodbye.
Goodbye.